Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Team Check-In. I'm your host, Emre, and with me today, I have the man with the coolest last name in all of YouTube Microsoft Teams ecosystem, whose last name I'm try not to butcher, Nick DeCourcy. So, did I butcher it? I think I did.
No, you did good. You did good.
All right, Nick, once again, let's do the awkward podcasty thing and exchange pleasantries. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing awesome as well. So, Nick, before we roll the debate and roll the discussion into AI is coming to take over and destroy our lives,
Hopefully not.
hopefully not. Uh, can you tell our audience about what you do, your channel, and everything?
Yeah, sure. So, I run a company called Bright Ideas Agency. I'm a consulting company that specializes in digital transformation for small businesses. And so the tools that I work with the most are Microsoft 365, Power Platform, and Azure. But I'm pretty much technology agnostic. I've helped businesses with all kinds of things, but that's where I have the greatest amount of expertise. And I run a YouTube channel connected to my business where I just try to give people tips and information that might be relevant to them if they're a small business owner, or they're responsible for IT in a small business, or just a business user who's thinking about how can I get more out of Microsoft 365, out of Teams, or out of Power Platform.
That's all. And how did this entire passion for Microsoft 365 began? Because your channel is one of the best resources for Microsoft 365 content, whether it's Teams or Power BI. So how did you get this into Microsoft stuff?
Well, thank you. That's a very nice compliment. And there's a lot of people out there in this Microsoft 365 community sharing good information. So there's a lot of content out there that's really great. But my interest really, I've been involved in IT for years. It's always been part of my job, but it was never the exclusive focus of my job. And then COVID happened. And suddenly we were all thrown into offices at home and trying to use Microsoft Teams. And I'd had some background before that of using the Microsoft 365 tools in the organization that I was in at that time. And I'd done things in prior roles prior to that. But really, I started to see just how important getting the right connection with understanding those tools for every level of an organization was. And about 2 years into that, I decided that I wanted to really take what had been a sideline in my work life for about 20 years and make it my focus. And so I set up my company, Bright Ideas Agency, and really focused in on how, not necessarily from a technical perspective, I wouldn't say that I'm the most technical expert that exists in these things, but combining my understanding of working in various businesses and trying to get things done, and how can you connect with those tools to get more done, whatever your scale of organization. I sometimes feel that we focus too much on the enterprise.
Yes.
A lot of solutions are enterprise solutions. And if you're a small business owner, if you're working in an organization that might be 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, sometimes you can look at these solutions and scratch your head about how complicated they are, about how much they cost. And I don't think that should be the case. I think they should be democratized. Everyone should get benefit out of it. So that's really where I focus my time, on these smaller organizations. How can we get more done with Microsoft's tools, or whatever tools you're using?
So you're the Robin Hood of digital transformations.
Hoping to be, yeah, kind of like that. I want to use those best practices, but at the same time, I want to make what I'm doing accessible to everyone.
So one thing that's really the term digital transformation is really fascinating to me because unlike you, I have a literature background, right? So the second I hear digital transformation, my mind just goes immediately sci-fi. And I go full on Frank Herbert and I go all right, we need the thinking machine jihad coming really soon and all that. So, uh, so my question is, this digital transformation, what are the steps of it? How does how does digital transformation usually occur as you're helping, let's say, a small organization? What are the steps of like a full digital transformation?
Well, I think you have to contextualize it around what is going on and what is the need there, and what
Hmm.
digital transformation is will look different depending on the organization, depending on what you're trying to achieve, and frankly, depending on the people who are part of that organization as well. So, really, what we're thinking about is where is there a pain point? Where is there an opportunity? Where
Hmm.
can we leverage technology to do better, to make our life a bit easier, to connect with our customers, to delight them more? And you're not going to have the same answer. Any two organizations aren't going to be the same. But I can tell you very quickly what it's not. And it's not going out and finding the latest trendy app and signing up to that and trying it out for 2 months and then going to the next trendy app and trying that out for 2 months. And I think too often we get into this kind of we're almost on a kind of hamster wheel of there's something
Hmm.
new coming along and we need to try it. And I think that kind of mindset can impact small businesses a lot more than the larger organizations sometimes.
Hmm.
And so you really have this dichotomy of you have some businesses that are trying to do a lot with everything that's new and thinking that if they just get that new thing, it's going to be a magic bullet that's going to fix all their problems. And then you've got the other people who are kind of petrified of what's going on and just don't know how to engage with it at all. So a lot of the time, where I come to with digital transformation comes from people having a willingness to think about technology, but really not knowing where to go with it. They might think, hey, there's probably a piece of software that can help me with X, or
Hmm.
there is these couple of things that we're doing and they seem like they're really confused, they don't talk to one another, or staff turnover can initiate this as well. Like you
Hmm.
suddenly realize that Mary, who's been in your office in the corner for 25 years, and she leaves, you have no idea what it is that she did or how she got it done. And so you're suddenly struggling. You're like, how the heck do we put all this together? So what I try to do is to support businesses to understand both what are the pain points that they can address and what are
Hmm.
some reasonable steps that they can take to start addressing them. And that may be that there's a piece of software that can help them. It may be that they've already bought Microsoft 365, but they
Hmm.
think that Microsoft 365 is just Word and Excel and Outlook, and they're not
Hmm.
using things like Teams, they're not using things like bookings, they're not using things like shifts that could really help them. Or at the other end, there might be something that they need that's very custom to what they're looking at. And that is where I come to with Power Platform, whether it be through apps with Power Apps or automations with Power Automate, or even recently this year, I've seen a real uptick in smaller businesses being interested in Power BI, having an
Hmm.
awareness that they have lots of data, but not knowing what to do with it. So depending on the situation, digital transformation is always going to look different. But I think that the key thing is it's a journey. It's not a
Hmm.
you start it and you finish it. It's a mindset that we can get more done with technology. We can engage with technology to delight our customers more, to provide a better environment for our teams, and to really push forward with a lot of the things that elsewhere outside of the technology realm we're concerned about in our society, in our businesses right now.
Hmm. Exactly. I just immediate. I really feel you when you're talking about people focusing. Okay, like this one app. Oh yeah, if we go this route, it's gonna fix everything. If we now something new has come up. Oh
Yep.
yeah, now that's gonna fix everything. I remember way back in college, I was trying to quit smoking, and I said, okay, I found this awesome app to help me quit smoking, and the only thing it did was every time I opened my phone, it reminded me of the existence of something called smoking.
It probably worked for
And
some people.
yeah,
That's the thing. It's a different answer for
yeah,
everyone, you know?
exactly. Because I started doing that experiment with a very close friend of mine, And he kept showing me these updates on the app very proudly, saying, "Hey, look, my blood oxygen levels are back now that we haven't smoked in like 5 days now." And but all it did to me was, why are we talking about smoking constantly when I'm trying to quit it? So it's a weird example, but yeah, software work differently with other people. Some productivities, there's no one size fits all solution, right? When it comes to performance management or digital transformations. As I write for the Teamflect blog, and what's really frustrating for me is every time I'm writing about a particular issue in performance management, I can write like 4,000 words and the end result would be, well, it depends.
Yeah. And that's it. I think it always does depend. But I think that the consistent strand maybe
Mhm,
is that there's this promise from technology that a
mhm.
lot of people haven't seen. That
Yes.
a lot of what we get out of technology is just what you were describing there. You know, whether it's like the ping of something on Facebook or your
Mhm,
TikToks or whatever. Like, there's a lot of technology around us, but a lot of the time we talk about it being almost as negative as it is positive.
mhm,
Um, and I think that there's this promise. If I think back to when I started my career, I mean, I was thinking about this prior to us talking today, that when I started my career, like, it was still commonplace in the job that I had to send out paper mail to people with things and like wait for like 5 days for a response to come back. And, you know, it slowed down the pace of things. But now we've got faster and faster and faster, more and more data. And I'm not sure that that's necessarily helped everyone. I think
mhm,
it has helped some people, but I don't think it's helped everyone. And I think there's this underserved group, and a lot of that underserved group is probably in small businesses
mhm.
that are like, how do I address, how do I work with this? How do I actually get something good out of it? And it's like your example there, that you're seeing it and you're just being reminded of, you know, I want to achieve something, but this isn't helping me to do it.
Exactly, and yeah, uh, so, you talked about these pain points in an
Mm,
organization, right?
mm,
So it's really hard to self-diagnose, right? If you're an organization and you're experiencing problems just adopting to digital tools or going through a digital transformation, uh, again, we talked about how we might think that a tool is right for us, right? We went, okay, like this software
mm,
will fix
mm.
everything, but then turns out it doesn't. How can people go about picking the right software for themselves? What are some of the questions they can ask themselves? Are these guiding or self-coaching questions that
Mm.
they can ask in order to determine, hey, okay, I need something along the lines of this?
Yeah, I think that the main thing in my practice is don't start with the software. Don't
Uh-huh.
start being sold on a piece of software, because you can always find ways when you see something exciting, when you're like, oh, that looks good, that looks fun, that'll be fun to use. You can always find ways to push your business process into a piece of software and convince yourself that it's going to do everything that you need it to do. When I work with organizations that want to bring on a new piece of software, I start off by saying, okay, we're going to identify what your requirements are. And those requirements, really, we can break down into things that are real requirements, they're necessary, and things that are
Mhm.
nice to have. And
Yeah.
once we've got those two categories, I like to go really broad. I like to look at what is out there in the market that can help with these kinds of issues. In the last couple of months, I've been helping a company, a small business, put in place a new piece of finance software.
Hmm.
And they had looked at some, they already had one in place, they'd looked at some new ones. And we talked through this process. And I said, well, what you want to do, even if you end up going in the direction that you think you're going to go, because you've seen the ad for this piece of software or you've seen a demo for it, it's really good to go through a process and sense check it. And, you know,
Hmm.
at least if you've checked that against 10 other pieces of software, you know that genuinely you are picking the thing that's best for you. You know, you're
Hmm.
not leaving opportunity on the table. And I think that's very important with this, is don't start with the software, start with what your needs are and try to fit what you end up with to those needs, because it's far too easy to convince yourself that your needs are what the slick salesmen are telling you your needs are.
As a slick salesman myself, I couldn't agree with you more. I'll definitely like put my name under all that statement because, yeah, I mean, we here at Teamflect, we are one of those like pieces of software that you were talking about. But even with my friends, as we're talking about, like, hey, like, some of my friends come up to me and say, hey, you're doing a lot of stuff with Microsoft Teams, and we're using similar stuff. Is Teamflect good for us? Can we go? Like, okay, I go, yes, I can definitely endorse it, but you need to tell me more about your organization first. Right? So yeah, there isn't a one size fits all solution. And yes, I really like your idea of like identify the needs first, and then like come up with an action plan, and then which software is going to help us get there faster.
And I think you do a good job of that in terms of some of the content that I've seen
Oh,
around your
thank you very
business
much.
is you try to expose a range of different things that are out there.
Hmm.
And you know, when you're working, like when I'm making YouTube videos, if I mention that you could work with a consultant, I'm always going to say, well, you could work with me. I'm not going to say you have to work with me, but it would be stupid of me to spend my time making a video that people are going to see and not
Hmm.
say, hey, if this is something I could do for you, why don't you consider working with me?
Hmm.
But I think that there's a level of honesty and integrity in being clear that there are other options out there
Uh-huh.
and helping people to find the right option. I think it always ends up with a better client relationship if you start off from that basis of trust, of being like, well, I wanted to work with you because I genuinely think I can add value for you, I can help you, as opposed to I'm just looking to bolster my revenue dollars this month. And whether
Uh,
this works for you in 3 months' time, that's not my problem, because that'll be the support team, you know. And I think there are businesses like that out there.
uh-huh.
And in some ways, that's what gives digital transformation a bad name, because so many businesses that you go to have this experience of having spent a lot of time and money working with a software vendor, and they end
Hmm.
up with something that does maybe a little bit more for them than the old system, but they don't
Yeah.
really feel as if it's worth it. And I think that provides a bad taste for technology generally. So the more, you know, there's a big pie out there. There's a very big pie right now
Uh-huh.
with the different options that people are looking for. We can all benefit from selling our service. Let's find the customer that's the right customer for our software or our service.
Yeah. It's a very thin line, isn't it? Balancing the business side, like, of yourself and the content creator as well.
Yeah.
So, because yeah, you do want to like, hey, like I do this, but it's also, yeah, you don't want to push yourself, like push your services on people so much. It is a thin line, but yeah, you walk that line pretty well yourself. And one thing that is really exciting right now, and it's nothing new, but so we all like suddenly the entire world went remote with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've moved past it, even though we haven't actually moved past it. But many people went remote and then the whole thing ended, but not as many returned to offices.
Mm-hmm.
Many just switched to hybrid models or just suddenly realized, hey, offices aren't as useful. So, do you have any like projections on where do you see like this whole trend going in the future? Where do you see like digital transformation moving forward in that area?
Well, I'm very much an introvert, so I enjoy just sitting in my attic, having discussions like this. Um, but again, I think it's this issue of there isn't one answer that fits everyone.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to what is the culture of your organization and what are you trying to achieve? And what
Hmm.
I think doesn't work is just arbitrarily saying, hey, we're going to have everyone in the office all the time because that's what I believe as a leader. I'm not going to
Hmm.
reflect on what we're actually trying to do. And I know this is something that looking at Microsoft's tools, there's been a lot of focus from Microsoft in this idea of the workplace as a place to go, a place to bring benefit that you can't get at home. And whether you're thinking about things like Teams rooms, for example, and how
Mhm.
do you promote the people who are sitting outside of the office to the same kind of standing in that meeting as the people who are
Mhm.
inside the office. And so I do think that technology gives us part of the answer to this.
Mhm.
But it's entirely to do with culture as well. And I think it's really also connected to what are we going to try to achieve almost as a society out of the benefits that technology can give us. Because I do think that there's an argument to be made. And I think when we look at things like quiet quitting and all that was going on last year, and we look at this and we say, well, there's a lot of people who are at least somewhat dissatisfied with where work has got us to, and also where
Yeah.
technology has got us to as well. Technology is this thing that, you know, your email inbox just keeps pinging and pinging and pinging all day, and then when you leave the office your phone continues on with that because you're connected to it. And you could say, well, where is the balance in this? Is it actually a balance that is beneficial to the individual as well as to the company that they're working for? And so I think that this does have a digital transformation
Mhm.
perspective. But I also think it's to do with culture. It's to do with the culture of how do we want to lead organizations? Where do we want to get people to? And how much are we concerned about people not just producing as much as they can at work, but producing as much as they can in life, getting the
Yeah.
best out of the life that they're having. And I think that's a conversation that keeps going on. It's a conversation that transcends technology, but there are certainly businesses out there, Microsoft is certainly amongst them, that are really
Uh-huh.
focused in on providing technologies, providing tools that can help give us answers in this discussion.
All right, let's take a small break. I'm interrupting your regularly scheduled podcast to talk to you about Teamflect. Teamflect is the single best performance management software for Microsoft Teams. It is an all in one solution. And when I say all in one, I mean all in one. You want to create tasks? There you go, create tasks. You want to set goals? Set goals all you want. You want to exchange customizable recognitions? Sure, Teamflect has employee engagement for days. You can even conduct entire performance review cycles using customizable performance review templates without ever having to leave Microsoft Teams. Oh, and the best part is, Teamflect is absolutely free for up to 10 users. And I don't mean a trial period or Teamflect Lite version. I mean free with full functionality for up to 10 users. So you can start by demoing Teamflect with a 10 people group, get their feedback, and if you like it, you can roll it out company-wide. What are you waiting for? Go to teamflect.com and schedule your free demo today. Now, back to the show. Yeah, the whole discussion of fulfillment at work and quiet quitting, it was a very frustrating discussion throughout last year, because one angle that really frustrated me was the side of people going, "Ah, these Gen Z people are being snowflakes. They want to be content at work. How dare they?" But what's the point of like spending most of your life in a particular place if you're not going to be content with it? Because
Yeah.
those same people who are pointing the finger at quiet quitters and saying they were being snowflakes or they were being too soft, well, they were complaining about the same things as well, right? But I think we are like, as a society, we're slowly but surely moving on from that trend of hustle culture and just keep your head down and keep going, to like, hey, okay, I don't need to be putting up with this anymore. There are other options. But as we are rolling forward with the podcast, and since you brought up the emergence of new technology and is it going to be bad? Is it going to be good? And Microsoft coming up with some new stuff. Nick, I think it's time. I think it's time. Copilot, what's up?
Well, Copilot is something I'm very excited about. This
I,
is
by the way, I loved your thumbnail on Copilot. You know, like, Microsoft just won work. Like,
and I still stand by that. I still haven't seen anything, but I mean, there are other options that are coming out there. I know, I think it was either last week or the week before that Google had a set of announcements at Google I/O about Workspace and their suite of tools in relation to this. But I do think that Copilot, if people don't know what Copilot is, well, Copilot is really the brand that Microsoft has put around all of the AI experiences that they're bringing into their customer-facing apps, whether that be Power Platform, whether that be their security technologies. I think GitHub has a Copilot now, and what we're waiting for, what I'm waiting for at least, is Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is going to bring these Copilot technologies into Word, into Outlook, into PowerPoint, into Teams. And bring a flavor of AI that we perhaps haven't really seen before, and with new possibilities there. And I'm very excited about this because I think it offers the opportunity. Obviously, we don't know exactly how this is going to work yet. It's very easy for any company to put together a 30-second video that makes their product look great. And while I do have a lot of trust in the Microsoft 365 suite of products, you do have to wait until you see something and you use it yourself to work out what it actually does. But
yeah. And in their defense, the 10-minute video was pretty cool too.
yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot. We haven't seen everything, but we've seen a lot. And we know that there are businesses out there that are using this now. I think the latest announcement was that there were about 600 businesses that were going to be using Copilot and testing it out. So I do think there's benefit to the fact that this is being rolled out slowly. Obviously, I would like to get my hands on it sooner rather than later, and I think there's a lot of people in that boat. I know that a lot of the comments that I've got on YouTube, when is this going to come out, or on LinkedIn, and so I'm sorry, I don't know. But I think that there's a lot of potential with this because, as I said before, technology has had a lot of promise, and I think for a lot of people it hasn't delivered. And
Definitely.
I remember when I was younger, the conversation of my generation, because we were the first generation that experienced the internet as kind of teenagers, and we would be the kind of digital future. And I think that's turned out well for some people, but there are a lot of people who are millennial generation that are scared of technology, that don't want to embrace it, concerned about it. And then we kind of moved on to the next generation, the Gen Zers, who are supposed to be digital natives. And then yeah, there's things that have moved on there, but there are still the same basic problems of technology is making our life harder in a lot of ways, quicker than it's making it kind of easier, quicker than we're able to catch up. We're still connected to more things. We're getting more emails than we can deal with. There's more data flying around. There's that document that you know someone created last year, but can you find it? No, you can't. So you've got to create it again. And these are all new problems that we've created for ourselves.
Exactly.
And with Copilot, with the ability for AI, and what the AI can do is look at a weight of data that you could not have in your brain at any given time. We can look at data across an organization. And what it can potentially do is cut through some of that and say, okay, I'm going to give you a summary of your emails. I'm going to help you to design a spreadsheet that does X. I'm going to help you to bring the brand into PowerPoint so that it looks good and there's no one in the marketing team that's disappointed with what you put out today. And so I think this is very exciting because this may be the start of allowing humans and the unique things that humans can bring to the table to start to be pushed up above this kind of weight of
Give me
data.
1 second. Something's up. Oh, something was up with the recording, so I'll just 1 second. Okay, we did experience some technical difficulties, but we're back, ladies and gentlemen. So okay, so please keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so can you believe it? A Teams problem.
Unbelievable.
just as
What?
just as we're
Never.
talking
No.
just as we're talking about these exciting new technologies. Yeah, I just am very excited about this, and I know that we talked about this previously. We've looked at your app, and you're getting AI in there a little bit, and I think this is a huge, there's a huge opportunity around this. I do think we're going through a period of AI overload a little bit.
Oh,
Um,
big time. It's
yeah.
it's turning into like the new Marvel movies where like the way people talk about AI, it's turning into like how people used to talk about the Marvel movies. So constant discussion and input about AI. And I'm pretty sure like there will be some like AI fatigue in like popular culture soon enough, but everything that's actually going on is pretty revolutionary. And one reason I'm excited about 365 Copilot as opposed to like other AI news is that this is more productivity centric AI.
Exactly.
This is AI as a tool instead of an actual replacement. Because what we got with these large language models like ChatGPT or Writer or like generative AI like Midjourney or DALL-E, we had AI tools being used to replace creative individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And at first glance, it looked, well, they can kind of do the job, right? That's what people thought when they saw ChatGPT writing for the first time. And then they started having it write more and more and more. And people realized, oh, it's just writing the same things over and over again. So just wording it slightly differently. And like all the suggestions are pretty much along the similar veins. And it's still incredible. And the places it will go will surely be mind blowing. But what I think 365 Copilot is bringing in an era of no, this is a tool. This is not a replacement. This is a tool to automate the more mundane sides of everything you do so you can actually be more creative, have time for the things that actually matter. So far, I'm picking up everything they're putting down, right?
Yeah.
Word documents into presentations. I'm with you. I don't have a visual design bone in my body, so turning Word documents into like these beautiful looking presentations, at least what we got from the concept videos, that was lovely. And the whole stuff with analyzing Excel data and everything, that was pretty cool. Where I think, and I'm releasing a video about this one as well, coming up pretty soon. And I think it might be out before this episode of the podcast is out, actually. But where I think like I understand the use, but it kind of loses some points for me in the whole, oh, let's write AI generated emails, right? Um, because I can very easily picture a future where people just start exchanging AI generated emails with each other without typing an actual word. And that's kind of frustrating, right? Because convenience can sometimes kill innovation very fast, like that. And so, just, I don't know, the thought of people exchanging AI generated emails back and forth and not actually sneaking like a small joke in there,
Yeah.
it's kind of scary for me.
I'm sure it will sneak a small joke in there.
Yeah,
I'm sure
hopefully.
eventually you'll get that feedback and it'll go in.
Uh-huh.
I think you're right, and I think that there are some things to be concerned about here. I mean, there's the training aspect of these large language models,
Uh-huh.
sucking in huge amounts of data from the internet. And right now, we know that none of that has been created by AI.
Hmm.
But if what AI allows us to do is just create more and more content, AI
Hmm.
generated content, at what point will we reach a tipping point where there's more content out there that's just been generated by AI technology than there is content that has been generated by humans?
Ooh.
And what impact will that have on the training of future AI models? Now, that's well beyond my pay grade. I don't have
Yeah.
an understanding of this technology to get into that discussion. But I do think that there's some interesting things to think about there. I know that there was a Senate hearing, I think, last week,
Mhm.
where there was discussion around the safety of these technologies, and
Uh-huh.
are we ahead, for example, of upcoming election cycles, and how AI will impact that. So there are things to be concerned about here, but at the same time, when we think about something like Microsoft 365 Copilot,
Uh-huh.
the Copilot brand is very clever because it
It
says this
is.
is something to like hold your hand and take you through it. And all of those other concerns aside, if this is something that genuinely helps people to, deal with having 100 emails come through a day, that they can summarize and find an answer that they can put back to the thread to add some value to it, then maybe that's a good thing, and we'll learn as we go, to avoid that concern that you've raised there of just kind of the hamster wheel of just sending email after email. The AI kind of does it itself.
Right, 'cause like you said, the whole branding is incredibly clever, right? So Copilot, so it's an assistant. It's Jarvis. It's Cortana.
Yeah.
Cortana was actually. Do you remember Cortana when Microsoft actually had the word Cortana in it? It
Oh
gave
yeah.
all, yeah, it gave like all us like nerds, all like the Halo people. It made us so incredibly happy.
Well, yeah, but
But
then wasn't there that disconnect of in the later Halo games? Didn't Cortana kind of go off the rails a little bit, and then it was a little bit less appropriate to have
exactly.
Cortana be your helper in Windows?
Exactly. Oh, it's been so long since I've picked up Halo. When was the last time you picked up like
Oh,
a good Halo game and
a
actually
long,
played?
long time ago. I remember, I
Right?
think on the original Xbox playing through the first Halo, and that was probably the last time I went through a Halo game.
Exactly. Are you gaming right now?
Not really. Like most of my time is either spent um, doing this kind of stuff, or we have a 2-year-old who takes up a lot of time
Oh,
as well. So yeah, catching up on gaming, TV shows, movies, and anything that's kind of popular culture. I'm 2 years behind right now because I haven't had any free time.
so you have the content creation and you have the digital transformation and you have three full-time jobs now.
Yeah, that's kind of it, and I mean it's fun. I enjoy it, but it is. I know there was a new series of Succession that I've seen people be watching, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I'll have to get to that in like 3 years' time. I'm never going to get to it. I just have a list of shows that I started and I've never finished
Oh,
because
big time, big time, big time, big time. I feel you there. I feel the pain. I do feel the pain. So, I do need to ask you a kind of clickbaity question,
okay.
because uh, because I remember I felt this sentiment very strongly when I received an email from my boss, and it said, "Hey, have you seen this OpenAI ChatGPT thing that people use to write articles?" And when I received that, my job was predominantly writing articles. And I said, "Okay, time to switch careers. I'm done." It 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 scared the life out of me, right? But so even though it is branded very cleverly, do you think at some point Microsoft 365 Copilot will be causing some people to lose their jobs?
Microsoft 365 Copilot itself, I don't know. AI
Uh-huh.
technology generally. Probably. I mean, there will probably be jobs that disappear and there'll be new jobs
Uh-huh.
that appear. I know that one of the things that I find really interesting is that have you seen that there's been a lot of coverage recently about places adopting a 4-day work week?
Oh yeah, big
And
time.
and so this seems to be a thing that's on a lot of people's radar right now around the 4-day work
Mhm.
week and the benefits of that, the productivity benefits. And if you go back and you look at the history of how we've worked, um, we've not always had a 5-day work week. I mean, the
Uh-huh.
5-day work week was something that was established. I think Henry Ford established the 5-day work week 100 years ago or so, you know. And so before that, people were working 6 days, 7 days. I think the reason they got time off was in predominantly Christian countries. People were given a Sunday off to
Uh-huh.
worship, and probably the same in countries with other religions were given different days off to worship. So that's where the day off came from. So I think that you can also connect to that technology. Like as technology has changed, like the big thing for Henry Ford was the production line, right? And suddenly
Mm-hmm.
we were able to produce, we were able to have productivity. And I know going back to the 1930s, I think economists were looking at this and imagining that we all might by now have a 4-hour work week or something
Uh-huh.
along those lines. So I think it really depends on where do the benefits of these technologies accrue.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could end up in a situation where the benefits really accrue for the people who use these tools, the day-to-day workers who are using these tools, to be able to get back some balance in their lives
Mm-hmm.
from it, to look at, well, can we support a 4-day work week? Could we support a 3-day work week? Like, is
Uh-huh.
it necessary? Like, is the value that a human being can deliver to the world entirely tied down to the business that they work for? Or are there other
Uh-huh.
things that we should be trying to achieve as a culture, as a species? Um, and so I would hope that we can look at it like that. I
Uh-huh.
would hope that these technologies, if they do have an impact on what people do, can also have an impact on the balance in their lives. And so instead of thinking about it as some people lose their jobs and some people are
Mm-hmm.
working just as much, just with
Uh-huh.
AI helping them achieve more, can we say the AI helps us all to achieve more and helps us all to have more balance? That's
Yeah.
probably a rather utopian way of thinking about it. Um,
I'm
but
loving it.
but I grew
I
up on
hope.
Star Trek, so that's my
Yeah.
view of technology. Is, you know, like it's going to help us to become this utopian society.
Yes, and we will surely reach that final frontier.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, I mean, the whole like it's coming for our jobs. It's the more clickbaity approach, and it's never that simple, right? It's
Yeah.
never that simple. And I like how you're putting it, right? It can cause like some positions to disappear, but it's also going to lead to like some other positions to appear. Back like when I was a teacher, I wore a lot of hats. Back when I was a teacher, like a couple years ago, uh, you have the same discussion with your students, all right? What are you gonna be when you grow up, right? What are you gonna do? And one of my students actually gave me the most honest answer, and they're like, I have no idea. I said, okay, so you're undecided, and he actually said he was like very forward thinking, like very adult mindset. Like, I don't know what jobs there will be, right? Because we don't know. Like 5 years from now, we don't know which titles or which weird new positions will be open, and the whole like the AI revolution that we're experiencing right now, it's spicing that thing up even more. It's making everything all that more interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that there's a lot of things that we don't know about this, about where it's
Uh-huh.
going to go. But there are also a lot of things that we do know. And I think the last few years have taught us all a lot of things. Like I think we have more appreciation of the fact that there are a lot of people around us that are struggling to
Hmm.
keep that balance, struggling with the mental health impacts of the
Hmm.
technology that we've got and how it works right now. Um, struggling to think that they're achieving what they want to achieve in life. We know this, and I think what the pandemic period kind of did for a lot of us is to
Uh-huh.
bring these issues to the surface of our understanding, and a lot of people having a lot more appreciation of that. And I think in the past it's been okay to say, well, I struggled in this way, and therefore that's a rite of passage that everyone else should struggle in that way or struggle more to achieve what they want to achieve. And I,
Exactly.
and I think that's disappearing as a mind. I'm hoping that's disappearing as a mindset. And we can
Hmm.
look at this and say, you know, that your point around Gen Z, quiet quitting, the snowflakes in the workplace kind of attitude that people had. Hopefully that's going away, and
Yeah.
we are all starting to hear more what those around us are saying, the concerns that they've got, the pressures that they're feeling, and we're going to find ways to resolve those, because that's the only way that in the future we're all going to get along, we're all going to feel like we're achieving it. You know, if we're going to end up with a world that's much better than the one that we kind of started with when this technology revolution started, then we've got to address some of these things, some of these inequities, some of these mental health concerns that we see around us. And hopefully technology isn't going to do it all, but hopefully using technology in an astute way that is cognizant of these issues can help us to address some of these things.
Yeah. Exactly. So, going, because as long as I have you on the show, I kind of want to get more out of you about Microsoft 365 Copilot,
Yep.
because you are the most knowledgeable person I know on this topic. That being said, I don't know a lot of
You need to
people.
meet some more people. That's the upshot of that.
But it, I'm not going to be asking you about like any more like details or information, but I want to go the other way around. Let's do some wish fulfillment right now. So uh I just picked up the new Zelda game, right?
Hmm.
I'm head over heels into it, loving it, but I had lots of expectations for it. Especially in the first game, there was a dog and we couldn't pet it. And the one thing I wanted from this game was, can we finally pet the dog? Turns out, no, we can't. We can make flying aircrafts, but we can't pet the dog. So, what is your petting the dog for 365 Copilot? What is this one or two? What are some features like you hope Copilot 365 Copilot brings, but like isn't revealed yet?
I mean, the biggest concern that I have with Copilot is one that I've addressed a couple of times in various videos that I've made on this now, which is that it's all very well to get these wonderful features that are going to help you with what data you have access to in Microsoft 365. But the majority of businesses don't have all of their data in Microsoft 365, whether it's because you use a CRM like HubSpot,
Uh-huh.
or you use QuickBooks, or whatever it may be. And the efficacy of what this AI is going to do for you, it seems, is going to be directly correlated with what data the AI can access. And so I'm
Hmm.
really looking forward. It's Microsoft Build this coming week when we're recording this. That starts tomorrow.
Hmm.
So I'm very interested to see if there'll be any announcements there around, in the background, is Copilot going to allow us to integrate with third-party data in any way? Because I think this is a very important thing, and frankly, I think it's going to be, in many ways, a lot more important to smaller organizations that do tend
Hmm.
to kind of jump between different platforms, than larger
Hmm.
ones that can invest in the back-end infrastructure to pull everything into an index SQL server or whatever it may be,
Hmm.
to get that data there. And we don't want to create this kind of two-tier system of it's only big enterprises that are getting the real benefit out of this AI, and you've still got
Hmm.
small businesses that are paying their subscriptions to use it, but aren't getting the same level of benefit. So that's my biggest concern. That's my dog that I want to see being able to be
Hmm.
pet in Copilot. I want to see some answer on this third-party data.
Exactly. Because one thing that I really think that sets Microsoft Teams apart is that beautiful ecosystem.
Mm,
Right? The Teams App Store has such amazing options, Teamflect being one of them,
mm,
but like such incredible options available to consumers. So I like, if somehow the when Copilot joins that ecosystem and it plays very well with the other third-party apps. Uh, I already believe that like Teams is like the best platform for
mm.
collaboration, but it's gonna take just go up to the next level. It's gonna be incredible.
No, I agree with you, and I think this is a decision-making point, a junction for Microsoft in many ways, because the history of Microsoft is relying on a community of partners, building frameworks that then get extended by partner organizations like Teamflect is one, creating software that works. But if there is such a tangible benefit to using just Microsoft products over using those third-party products, then that could be problematic for that entire partner community. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that kind of works out.
Yeah, exactly. We hope they handle it better than Wizards of the Coast did with Dungeons and Dragons. Are you, if you're familiar with that, your nerd cred is very
Oh,
high
well,
right now.
there was a new, I'm not intimately familiar with it, but there was a new terms of service or something like that that
Oh
came
yeah,
out, and yeah.
Their new terms of service for their open gaming license, it kind of leaked online, and it turns out it was going to be very damaging to third-party creators and the community behind it, which was very sad because the community is kind of what keeps cult games like Dungeons and Dragons alive. But one thing that was really cool is once the backlash from the community came in, they revised the whole thing. Well, they had to, but still. Okay, we are losing listeners fast, Nick.
You never know. We are talking about AI in Microsoft 365, so I think that has a certain geek bar to it, you know.
It does. It does. Suddenly, like once this episode of the podcast airs and it reaches our like millions and millions of listeners, sure, your entire comments section on your YouTube channel is gonna be like, hey, like, do you want to hop on a game of Halo? And just like,
yeah,
oh,
you might be right.
now, if there is a better note to end on, then I don't know. Like, I don't know it. But it's like we've done an hour, a full hour, and it blew by. Nick, thank you very much for coming on the show and gracing it with your presence. This was a lovely chat for me. So before we go, can we hear about your YouTube channel again? So let's plug it a little.
Yeah, sure. So thanks for having me. It's been a fun conversation. But yeah, the channel is called Bright Ideas Agency. So if anyone wants to find out about Microsoft 365 or Teams or Power Platform, then they can head over there. If they want to find out more about my business, then I'm at www.brightideasagency.com. Or just connect with me on LinkedIn. That's kind of the social media where I'm most present most of the time.
All right, that's awesome. And as our listeners know, Teamflect also has a YouTube channel where we also talk all teams, Microsoft Teams, or like tips about managing HR and all sorts of goodies. And my dog actually shows up in some of the videos. So we have that going for us. So Nick, thank you very much for being on the show. And thank you guys very much for listening. We'll see you on another episode of the Team Check-In. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.